All right, welcome back to the channel. Very painful result yesterday. About as embarrassing and humiliating a night as we've experienced in the Diego Simeone era. But because I got a few comments on yesterday's short, which, by the way, exploded. Love that for us. Because I got a few comments in this vein yesterday, I do want to kick off the post-match video with a congratulatory message for Bodø Glimt. Like, for Norwegian football, enormous to see this team reach the playoffs. We all knew that it's a dangerous side. Everyone remembers the 6-1 win over Jose Mourinho's Roma in the Europa League. Results over Spurs, Dortmund. They beat Manchester City just last week. So for Bodø Glimt to come to Madrid and defeat an Atlético side that had not lost at home this year, major props. Congrats to them. And it was a victory that they deserved, as we're going to get to. Got lots of comments on the recap yesterday, guys, and I want to thank you so much for submitting these comments. Again, I've said this before, but the passion in this community for Atlético de Madrid, in the good times and the bad, the divergence of opinion, that's why we're all here, to share our thoughts and our feelings on the team and how they're doing. And as we saw on Wednesday night at the Metropolitano, all is not well for Los Rojiblancos. So let's begin. The first comment to which I want to reply is from @AndrewGolden9781. What's going on, Andrew? Appreciate you. I want to thank you for this comment. He says, Jeremy, would be interested to hear your thoughts about the lack of philosophical consistency from Cholo. You've said it many times when we go through many formation changes, even in one match. It seems like the times when we have consistency in form is correlated to Cholo committing to something ruthlessly. I would love to hear your thoughts on the constant changes and whether you think the same way about the tactics. I feel like consistency, even if he doesn't have the perfect squad, would help. What would you do? What would I do tactically with this team? Well, I would stop catering to Surloth, but then there is a contradiction, right? Alexander Surloth got Atletico's only goal yesterday. Surloth has scored 6 times and provided 1 assist in his past 10 games, 9 of which he has started. This is dating back to the second week of December when Alex Baena got hurt. Surloth got a chance to start, and he's producing. So catering to Surloth is a problem, but at the same time, Cholo Simeone is committing to this, whether we like it or not. And I've been pretty open about my not liking it. What would I do tactically with this team? Well, what I would do tactically with this team, I don't think the personnel is in place to do it. You know, you have 20 players in the squad right now. Like, Juliano Simeone didn't play yesterday because of illness. Clement Lenglet didn't play yesterday. Antoine Griezmann, through injury, didn't play yesterday. Simeone only used Nahuel Molina yesterday because Juliano was out. So really, you have about 18 or 19 players that the coach can count on. And that is a very small squad to compete in 3 competitions for the rest of the season. I mean, we have seen very rarely Simeone use a pure 4-3-3. Those instances are few and far between. I guess more practically, I would do, honestly, something close to what he did in the first half yesterday. A 3-5-2, 3-4-2-1 type of formation. But you need another pure, true star quality midfielder to make that work. Because this Atleti team should be playing 3 midfielders, but Alex Baena and Thiago Almada are not central midfielders. Maybe the solution is Leon Goretzka. From @AlpaAtleti from Hong Kong. Appreciate you. Hi, Jeremy. Have been a reader of Into the Calderon for many years. Don't know if you remember, but I asked the first question on Twitter years ago that eventually led to a Twitter mailbag episode on the podcast. Thank you for being so kind to answer my question back then. Man, an OG from the Colchonero chat days. I'd love to hear that. This was a hard match to watch after Bodø Glimt scored. The team looked lost going forward, losing the second balls, not creating any attacking shape going forward. Very clear now the team lacks any sort of bite. Now that Alvarez is struggling to create, Griezmann is injured. Almada does a lot of dribbling, but is not clinical enough. Baena feels like he lacks a clear role in the team, floating from flank to flank, which leads me to the question. Do you think it would be wise to play Hansko, Jimenez, Lenormand, Pubil as a back line so that we can put Llorente up front again? Up front meaning as a forward, or up front meaning in a more advanced midfield role, because Simeone has been doing that throughout this month. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of it, because I think Llorente is really good at right back. It's another kind of contradiction, right? Because Llorente is really good at right back, but we've been short on capable midfielders. Unless you're dipping into the pool from Atlético Madrileño or Atleti C, which, if Diego Simeone and the coaching staff saw someone from Madrileño or from one of the juvenil sides that needed to not just be in the first team dynamic, but needed to be in the squad and playing, they would be playing. The last time this happened was Pablo Barrios 3 years ago. But more directly answering this, I don't think so. I don't really like Hansko at left back. I like him at center back. I like Pubil more at center back than I like him at right back, even though Pubil is a pretty good right back. Jimenez and Lenormand are two central defenders that I cannot count on. I can't count on Jimenez to stay healthy. I can't count on Lenormand to not make a boneheaded mistake. And I don't think the cost of putting Llorente in midfield or even further forward is really that worth it. But again, Simeone is a bit low on options right now because no players have been signed this month. It's crazy. But again, going to get to that later. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. At Manas Venrena 351, appreciate you. Julian used to be our most intelligent player. The number of times I saw him get into the perfect spot to collect second balls, collect rebounds, jump on mistakes, position himself in the box where he has the best chance to score. All of that is gone this season. Who asked him to drop so deep? He's collecting the ball from Hansko, from Llorente, sometimes dropping to collect balls from the center backs. Yes, he is. It's now 9 games without a goal for Julian. And I watch Julian get on the ball and get into attacking positions. I don't have confidence he's going to score. And that is a very bad place to be with the player who has been regarded as the franchise player, who is the star player. And when you're the star player, you need to shine in any context, whether a player with granite blocks for feet in Alexander Sørloth is bagging all the goals or not. I think back to Antoine Griezmann's first stint here. How many of you remember how many strike partners Griezmann had? First, there was Mario Mandzukic, right? Then there was Jackson Martinez. Then there was Luciano Vieto, Fernando Torres, Kevin Gamero, Alvaro Morata, Diego Costa. That's 7 strike partners in what? 5 years? Even then, and in a team where the strike partner was constantly missing, or Saul Niguez was playing left back, and the only functional winger was Yannick Carrasco, who was then sold outside of a transfer window 1 year. Even still, Griezmann found ways to shine. So many ways to shine, in fact, that he was twice on the Ballon d'Or podium. And in my estimation, could have and should have won it in 2018. We're not seeing that with Alvarez. Now, I'm not going to play armchair psychoanalyst. I can't get in the player's head. I don't want to get in the player's head. What I'm seeing tactically, what I'm seeing individually, I see a player who's not confident. I see a player who has a strike partner in Sørloth who is completely unsuited to him, and he's not able to impose himself. He had a free header, unmarked yesterday. Would have been a golazo, a back header into an open net, and he hit the roof of the net with it. That's a lack of sharpness and a lack of confidence. Alvarez is not imposing himself. The disallowed Olympico from that free kick, which I think was the corner kick, which I think was correctly disallowed, by the way, because the referee wasn't ready. Koke was still talking to him when Alvarez took the corner. But the bigger problem is Alvarez isn't imposing himself. Alex Baena is not imposing himself. And I've said before that I like Baena in a free role, but when the structure supports it, the structure continues to not support it. At Andrew Maroon 7754, appreciate you. It is surprising how rarely our inefficiency from corners is discussed. We've gone from being among the best set piece teams in Europe to arguably one of the worst for several seasons now. We have lost what used to be a decisive weapon. The issue is even more significant given how we play with Sirloth. Crossing to him generates 10 to 15 corners per match, yet these opportunities consistently go unused. Follow-up comment from at Manasvenrena351. Sirloth is probably a better finisher with his feet. He scored some good goals last year from tight angles, and he has a powerful shot. He scored those goals with his left and right foot. But Simeone insists on only using him to get on the end of floated crosses. It's clearly not that great of a tactic. Sirloth's heading ability is very vibes-based, and the crosses are not good at all. It doesn't even look like they practice it all that often. I mean, I'm sure this is trained. I'm sure this is practiced, just like the corner deliveries, the set-piece deliveries are practiced. This is another way Baena and Alvarez can impose themselves on a game. And they're not. So many of the corner deliveries are going to the center of the box, where a lot of defenders are crowding and they can clear it away. We're not seeing... In the Mallorca game, just 4 days ago, we saw a really clever throw-in routine with Giuliano and a flicked header that ended up in a shanked clearance and a goal for Sirloth. We need to see more of that, so I'm sure this is being worked on. But with Sirloth, there is a predictability to how he moves. Oh, so many of his runs, I had a friend point this out yesterday in a group chat. So many of the attacking moves and the runs involving Sirloth see him just end up at the back post waiting for a header. Like, he never strays offside, not really. But the movement is predictable. The attacking phase is predictable. There needs to be more invention, more creativity, more playmaking from central midfield. And this is why Sirloth wasn't a starter last year and why he wasn't a starter at the beginning of this season. Because this is not how Atlético de Madrid wanted to play. This is not how Simeone wanted to play. Simeone wanted to play with Alvarez and Baena as his forward pair. Alvarez as the lone 9, leading the forward line and bagging all kinds of goals in all kinds of ways because players would create chances for him. But Alvarez now has turned into just another creator. And because he's so talented, he's accruing pretty big per 90 numbers as a creator. But this is not what we signed Alvarez to do, and he's suffering behind Sirloth. From at Farden Footy TV, what's going on? Appreciate you. Problem is the tactics are always the same. We're always playing a 2-striker formation, which we can get the best out of one striker in Sirloth, but not for the other, Alvarez. Simeone has to try other formations. The thing is, he is trying other formations, though. You're seeing a 4-4-2 or a 5-3-2 or even a 5-4-1, though a little less lately, out of possession. The defensive shape. The attacking shape is an asymmetrical 3-4-2-1, 3-5-2 that Simeone has been using since last year. So the attacking shape is not the same 4-4-2 we saw circa 2016, right? Atleti are not exclusively using 2-striker formations, especially with Sirloth in the team. There has been an even greater dependence on 1-striker formations. And Alvarez, Baena, Almada, whomever, behind Sirloth, running, well, not in behind him, because Sirloth is at the tip of all these moves, right? The fulcrum is Sirloth. The problem is not the lack of different formations, because yesterday Simeone used like 3 different formations in the game. Sometimes with Baena on the right, which Baena looked really good on the right. I don't know why Simeone moved him to the left. Almada was on the left. Almada was in the middle. Almada was further forward. What's a bigger issue than trying a different formation is that Simeone makes so many substitutions. There's an excessive interventionism that causes complete confusion and played right into Bodø Glimt's hands. You know what Bodø Glimt did really well yesterday? What Atleti used to do really, really well. They defended, you go back and watch the game, they defended in a 4-4-2, a tightly packed low block, restricting space behind. They played with fast transitions, and they forced play to Atleti's weak side, the left side, with Hansko and Nico Gonzalez. Atleti were excessively relying on these switches from left to right, Hansko to Baena, Baena to Hansko. and relying on individual quality, which we saw this in the first half. It was a very good first half when Atletico's individual quality was greater than that of Bodø Glimt. But in the second half, we saw a much greater collective effort and a much more effective Bodø Glimt plan. Atletico had 70% of the ball in the second half yesterday. And the counter pressing that was so effective in the first half when Atleti lost the ball and would quickly recover it, the shape was really good in the first half. Forced bad passes, forced high turnovers. Atleti again suffered from a lack of efficiency. And then in the second half, they drew Atleti further up, won more second balls by playing it long, and you see 3 or 4 different players in yellow shirts all ready to receive the ball and gain numerical advantage. That's the bigger issue to me. Finally today from @Tassini Reno. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Appreciate you. How many seasons can Simeone go without winning anything, accomplishing nothing, spending a lot of money, sticking to the outdated 4-4-2 system? What will it take for the club to move on from Simeone and get a new coach who innovates? This should have been a game we won 3-0. I want to talk about this comment because I want to draw attention that we have a tendency to make every Atleti game, especially one that Atleti don't win, into a referendum on the coach's future, and I don't think that's healthy for anyone. I think we have to stop doing that. And I mentioned this in a previous video. What will it take? What it will take is Atletico not finishing in the top 4 in La Liga, and that's never happened under Simeone. That's the big thing it would take. However, not qualifying for the last 16 to the Champions League, ordinarily that would be a big hit, and that would make the club take notice. But with the pending ownership change and Apollo coming in with a lot of money that they're preparing to spend, I don't think it's as important. I frankly do not think it's as important to the club. I don't. And you have to look at the history of Simeone on the touchline. How many times he has had a team that is struggling and has found ways to change tack. He's found ways to change the sensaciones around the team. This is a guy who won La Liga with Mario Hermoso, Jeffrey Kondogbia, Hector Herrera, João Felix, Lucas Torreira, against Lionel Messi and Karim Benzema, 2 Ballon d'Or winners. Simeone does not have all the weapons he needs. And it sounds like an excuse. But I'm saying this as someone who yesterday and today pilloried the coach for his substitutions. The Barrios for Lenormand change, about 15 minutes from time. The whistles that accrued. There is frustration. Okay, I'm not saying there's no frustration. That substitution felt like a message to the board more than anything. Because that's the only explanation I can find for how Atletico ended this game with 7 defenders on the pitch, chasing 2 goals. Not acceptable. Like, the substitution patterns the last couple of games, the last couple of Champions League games have felt like messages to the board. Message to Mateo Alemany, Miguel Angel Gil. That, listen, I don't have all I need. And before this season, what did I say Atleti were missing? They never signed a Rodrigo de Paul replacement. They didn't convince at left back. They didn't sign the dribbler that the coach requested. Those players still aren't here. Atleti have made 4 sales this month. 5 if you count Rodrigo de Paul becoming an Inter Miami player on a permanent basis. And Atleti have signed nobody. I get that there are extenuating circumstances here. But it is not so simple here as sacking the coach or parting ways with him mutually. The two names I've seen in the past couple of days. Mateo Moretto talked about one of them yesterday. Marcelino and Anthony Iraola. Marcelino is not a coach fit for Atlético de Madrid. Okay, if all the things you don't like about Simeone, you're going to hate them even more in Marcelino, who I think is a good coach, not for Atlético. No. Iraola would be an interesting appointment. He would bring a pretty radical change. The development track record at Rayo and at Bournemouth is pretty impressive. the kind of football that those two teams have played under Iriola's coaching, impressive. It is an enormous jump from Bournemouth to Atlético, though. Enormous. There is no guarantee that he would replicate or better Simeone results. Excuse me. As I've said before, if you are going to move on from Simeone and the decision is not Simeone's, the replacement that you're getting has to be a guarantee that you win one or two trophies, right? It's a guarantee that you have to be in the top 2 in La Liga, in the last 4 in the Champions League. The cup competitions treated as formalities. You're going to go deep in those competitions. You're going to reach a final at least. What is the ceiling of this team? I'll put it like this. With Simeone, the ceiling might not be very high anymore. It might be kind of low, but I know the floor is high. I know there's going to be a base of top 3 in La Liga, a knockout round or 2 in the Champions League. Possibly you reach the last 4 of the Copa del Rey. Hopefully you go beyond that and reach a Copa del Rey final. That is still my goal for this season. So no, I'm not in the place where I'm ready to kick out Simeone. Like, what Simeone has done for this club, all the difficult times that Atleti have had. Under him, there have been difficult times. The last World Cup was a very, very delicate time. And there were genuine conversations about moving on from Simeone. He rescued that situation. But I'm not dismissing frustration with Simeone. If we don't win a trophy this year, it will have been 5 years since the league win. And that's a very long time. And that will prompt some soul searching, especially after you've spent so much money in the aggregate the past 2 summers. But realistically, you're spending about $25 million per player in the last 2 summers. What's the ceiling when that is your approach to transfers? Coming up later today, a new episode of That Atleti podcast. Ricky Menendez will be back with me, and we're going to talk all about the Bodø Glimt game, transfer talk, and then some. So I hope you'll tune in. Thank you for watching this post-match video. Really appreciate you guys, all of you. I want to end with something of a positive message, kind of like the Galatasaray game. The Bodø Glimt game was not decisive in terms of ending Atleti's hopes at silverware. It makes qualifying in the Champions League for the knockout stage proper more difficult. It has no bearing on the Copa del Rey. It has no bearing on La Liga. Hopefully this serves as a wake-up call. That's, I think, the best I can say. Adios.